What's up, everybody? I'm Greg Mack, and I'm back. Welcome to another episode of Your Plan is in High Demand. Listen up. I do my best to pay close attention to the news media, particularly, when there's imminent life-threatening crises that might arise, such as severe weather's on the horizon, and I'm sure many of you do as well. However, we still have families and individuals out there who simply disregard evacuation mandates. So, I ask myself, well, how can it be called a mandate to evacuate for a particular area, but people are still allowed to stay? Now, I do understand that there are those who rather ride it out to protect what they have, their properties and their families, and just take care of themselves no matter what the risk may be. But the bottom line is, when the word evacuate is given, then why is it not 100% enforced? Well, let me take this a step further. I did some actual research here, and this is what I learned. Yes, here in the United States, there are evacuation mandates, and they get issued by the state and local government for imminent life-threatening situations like hurricanes, floods, fires. And these mandates, they are serious, and if you do not follow them and failure to comply, it can result in heavy fines, arrests, and other penalties. And it also means that you may not receive assistance from first responders if you remain in the affected area. However, we still have people that do it. Well, the bottom line is this. I wish there was a safe and efficient way to force people to evacuate, but I know it's not going to happen at 100% of the time. Therefore, this leads me to a story regarding the Tolsen family loss versus the evacuation mandate. Now, with regards to the Tolsen family, his family consists of 40-year-old dad, he's an attorney, and 40-year-old mom, she's a pediatrician, and 4 children. You have 16-year-old son number 1, who's a baseball standout, 14-year-old son number 2, he's a basketball standout, 12-year-old daughter number 1, she's a straight A model student, and a 10-year-old daughter number 2, who's a soccer standout. With regards to the Tolsens, they enjoy a comfortable lifestyle just off the coast of Key West, Florida, in a nice 2-story, 5-bedroom, 4-bathroom, 3,500 square foot home, and it's just less than a mile from the beach. Now, the home, quite expensive, strongly built for inclement weather. So this family, just like some of the other families in the area, they never tend to worry about leaving the home just because of a major storm advisory. So for years, the Tolsens, they've just done it their way. And, when you get certain mandates, they just figure, hey, the house is built for anything, which was just over 3 years ago when they moved into it. And, Dad, he paid a handsome amount of money to ensure the home was reinforced to the max to counter major inclement weather threats. Now, with regards to Dad, he likes to brag to anybody in the neighborhood or anybody that will listen at work or just anybody in general. He likes to brag that he knows about the home itself and how much money he put into it and what the house can withstand when it comes to a major storm or floods and that type of thing. In fact, Dad is so sure about the house that, he tells his closest of friends, hey, if you're ever told to evacuate because of a major storm, a situation like that, just come on over to my place because, we don't have to leave and there's no reason to ever leave because, the home is built to withstand hurricane force winds. The home is also equipped with an expensive backup generator system to keep it running regardless of what the weather is doing, so Dad says. So simply put, Dad and the family, they're convinced because of what they've already been through with regards to major storms and a couple of different hurricanes, that the home is safe enough from severe weather. So why should we leave home because we get told to evacuate? Because of the family's arrogance, and especially Dad, now let's see where the story takes us when they have no other alternative but to evacuate. Now, at this point, rain has hit the Key West region for the past 10 days, and Hurricane Betty is on the move and expected to make landfall in the area as a Category 3 storm by 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday. Now, the area has been on high alert for the past few weeks, and word has been passed by the media to everyone in that region, hey, you need to secure your homes before the storms hit and you might want to even consider relocating until the storm passes. You know, there's always the point where most families will heed the word, but the Tolsens and their arrogance and other families, they carry on about their usual way because they refuse to leave. Now it's just about 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday evening. It's an ugly, heavy, rainy evening. Dad and the family, they continue to hear the updates regarding Hurricane Betty. So you see, with regards to the Tolsens, the past 3 years, they've disregarded any significant weather warnings. So again, they don't have those worries because they live in a home, I guess that they consider indestructible. And because the home is built for hurricane force winds, they believe that a Category 3 storm is just not enough to rattle them to leave their home. Now it is Wednesday evening, and the family finds out that Hurricane Betty has picked up a full head of steam and is expected to make landfall much sooner in the Key West area. It's projected to hit by 6 a.m. Eastern Time on Friday morning by 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday evening. The media continues to warn folks to get out of the area, secure their homes, because the storm is now projected to hit landfall as a Category 4, with winds expected to be up to 125 miles per hour, with severe flooding throughout the entire region, and especially along the coastal areas. It's further expected for significant property damage within the surrounding areas and a total loss of power in most areas, if not the entire area. And it's also been stated the power could be out for days and possibly even weeks, depending on the amount of damage that the storm leaves behind. As you know, most families, they heed the warning. They button up their properties and they get out of the area. The Tolsens, however, they don't have any intentions of leaving, despite the evacuation mandate. They bed down and prepare for the storm. Now it's Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Hurricane Betty has drawn much, much closer to the Key West region than expected. The storm is now expected to make landfall just before midnight and possibly an hour or two sooner. Rain is beating the area down. Power outages have affected a lot of the surrounding areas, and the winds just sound downright terrorizing. Now, the Tolsens at first, they're pretty calm because they've been through the bad storms in the area before. However, they haven't experienced a storm of this magnitude. Despite how well the home is built, they still have the backup generator power at this point. So the family sit cautiously together, downstairs in the living room, watching television and tracking the storm by way of television and radio. Now, the rains and winds at this point have gotten their complete attention, and the sounds of those waves crashing out on that beach coming inland, it is starting to get to them, and it's crashing out just beneath the home, so it's quite mesmerizing. Now, at this point, Dad wonders if he and the family made the right decision. Him and Mom have a quiet conference in the kitchen and decide, hey, we might need to get out of the area. And they didn't know if it was a good idea to ride it out, because at this time it's only just after 3 p.m. with the storm not expected to hit until closer to midnight. Dad calls the weather station for advice. Now, because there's a significant flooding already occurring in the area, Dad is told to stay put and wait for emergency services personnel to make the rounds to assist those that are in need. Now, because they chose to evacuate, technically they don't rate any help from EMS or anyone. However, they are still told to sit tight, and if EMS can get to them, then they will get to them, but they're going to have to wait until other priorities are met. Now, Dad is frantic from the call, and he starts yelling at the weather station rep. Mom takes the phone, and she has to calm Dad down and apologizes for Dad's yelling session. Now, Mom, she tries to provide the family with information, and she's also told, be patient and sit tight, and help will come. But it will be a while before we can get to you because of the severe rains, winds, and flooding. Dad knows this, and he understands this, but he believes that the family should get moving on their own so that they can get to one of those 3 main shelters within the area. Now, at this point, Other than doing evacuations at work and at school and other places, the families never participated in anything where they had to actually do the evacuation on their own by way of an order. So Dad decides this is what we're going to do, and it's strictly an authoritative plan. He goes into his garage and takes a look at that brand new toy he has. That brand new lifted F-350 Super Duty 7.3 liter Godzilla V8 truck. He believes it had the horsepower and stability to cut through the flooding and get him to one of those storm shelters in a timely manner. Now the family tells him that they would rather wait for emergency services because they're better equipped to handle the situation. Well, Dad goes off, scolding the family harshly in a profanitized tirade, and tells them repeatedly, we need to leave now. So he starts to pack the truck out, give them about 45 minutes to grab everything they need for the trip, to dress appropriately. He gets the truck loaded with supplies and other items that he believes they need. Dad does do one thing. He calls the weather station on his CB radio, and he gets the best route to the nearest available storm shelter. However, the rep is kind of like, I don't think you should do that, sir. The rep fears that, he's going to take his family out there and something bad could go wrong, but he refuses to wait for hours for help to come. So he said, I'm taking it upon myself for me and my family, and we're going with or without your help, so you need to tell me the information I need to know. What is the best route or routes to get to one of the shelters that's sitting out there? The rep does plead with him to sit tight and wait for help, but again, he refuses and tells the rep, well, we got to go. The rep then puts his manager on the phone, and Dad gives her the same speech. Now at this point, the manager knows that Dad is serious and he's going to go. So she does give him the best possible advice, wishes him well and the family good luck, and says she will definitely let emergency services know that you were located at such and such residence and you made the decision to take off, and she gave you the best advice possible. Now, before leaving the home, Dad gets a quick weather update as well as road update before he takes off. Now, the family has no idea just how bad the rain, winds, and flooding is exactly going, and that most of the area is in blackout mode. So, but Dad does use his high beam lights to give him that extra support, so they set out on their way. The flooding is super severe, and it reaches just underneath the carriage of Dad's lifted truck. Now, because he knows the area well, he drives slowly and takes his time without trying to push the issue, but he just doesn't know just how bad the flooding is going to be. And the more he drives, the higher the waters continue to go. Now he continues on his journey. The family sees a lot of the vehicles and homes that have already been flooded, and he continues to drive as the water level continues to rise. Doesn't see any emergency vehicles. He takes the best route that was given on the advice of the local weather station. Now at this point, they're just a couple of miles down the road, but there's no way to contact anyone. So Dad keeps going because he knows the area, and he knows that at this point we cannot turn around and go back. We're too far into it. And Dad knows it by now. The area near the home is severely flooded, so he can't take that risk. So he continues to drive. Mom is praying. The kids are complaining. Dad gets infuriated. He tells the kids, shut up and help your mom pray so he can focus on driving. Then all of a sudden, the truck stalls. Dad cannot get it to start. The water is steadily rising. It is above the wheel well and climbing up near the doors. Eventually, it's going to consume the truck at some point. So Dad needs a plan. We didn't really have one, so he does a makeshift plan. He gets the family into the bed of the truck once he ensures that they got their wet weather clothing and they're ready to go. They get in the back of the truck bed. But then the water's still rising, and then it's splashing inside the bed of the truck. So what do we do now? Well, Dad remembers that he has 3 100-foot nylon ropes in the truck bed toolbox. He gets them out. He ties them together, double knotted style, and he just makes a rope bridge. There's a large tree right next to the truck, so he gets the rope tied around the tree, and then Dad, who's an excellent swimmer, realizes he's got to find some way to get the family off the truck and into a structure somewhere close by. One of the kids notices a building, although it's partially torn down pretty badly from the wind and the rains and the flooding, is high enough to get to if someone can get there. So Dad sacrifices himself and he makes it over to the other side, and he's able to tightly tie that rope to a part of that support structure that's still standing. And what he does is, one by one, he starts to take the family, helping them get from one side from the truck to the other side where that support structure is, and helps them get up on top of the support structure and tells them take those stairs and climb up higher. Now at this point, Dad just has the oldest son remaining that he needs to go back and get. Now, he goes back to get him, and they start to make their way across. And then, just out of nowhere, a huge gush of water and debris comes right down, crashing into the truck, and also them hanging onto that rope, moving at a force of approximately 90 miles an hour. They are gone. Mom screams, kids scream. Where are they? They can't be seen. Mom and the kids, they grip themselves together on the structure and pray that help comes. Now, for the next 3 hours, Mom and her kids are stranded on top of that structure, but it's holding steady despite the water still flowing and flooding the area, and they are still praying. They're cold, wet, tired, and isolated, feeling lonely, but they stay together, and then, wow, help finally arrives. Unfortunately, Dad and son, they're nowhere in sight. Mom and the other kids, they are rescued, taken to the hospital, treated for hypothermia, cuts and bruises that they suffered from the storm and the debris. Then they get taken to a shelter where, and they're hoping for the best, that Dad and maybe the son, they're okay. Even though they got pushed downstream, they managed to get to safety. Unfortunately, after days of searching, Dad and his oldest son's body are recovered. Family gets notified, and the situation as we know it has drastically changed for the family. Mom, she's angry because she know there was never truly a dedicated plan in place to ensure the family was safe from the storm. They thought that their home was indestructible, and she believes that, hey, the family took life for granted because they were used to those bad storms. They've been living there for 3 years, and in other parts of Florida where they have hurricanes and tornadoes, so they didn't see the need. But then the crisis arose, and nature always runs its course. So listen, at the end of the day, is losing a loved one worth the value of not having an evacuation plan in place to protect you and your family? I mean, think about it. Hurricanes, tornadoes, typhoons, they happen all the time across this country and across the world. And you hear about tsunamis and severe flooding, evacuations, and all the people that don't get out. We just recently had that severe flooding, and a lot of children were lost. And it was stated that they did not get the plan in a timely manner. And by the time they got it, it was too late. So if you're in your own home, you should at least have a plan in place to protect you and your family. Unfortunately, this particular family was arrogant, and they paid the ultimate price of losing 2 cherished loved ones. So is it really worth it to you? Where I live today, I don't necessarily have to worry about severe tornadoes and typhoons and stuff, but there's always a chance for an earthquake. So anytime there's a crisis that can arise in you and your family's lives, make sure you have a plan in place to protect yourselves. And if you don't have a plan in place, then I suggest you figure it out. Stop being reactive and get to be more proactive. Because I want you, just like me, to survive every possible day that you're meant to be on this earth and not leave a moment sooner. I know God has a different plan than I have, than you have, But at the same time, you have an opportunity to do the things that can protect you and your family any given day and time of the week, because we can be gone, as they say, here today and gone tomorrow. In closing, I'd like to thank all my amazing listeners out there for continually tuning in. And thanks as always for your support. Do me a favor, subscribe. And I'd love your feedback regarding the show. And exactly what would you do in a situation like the Tolsen family encountered? Now, with that said, do me a favor. Tune in next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, because I want to take you on a personal journey that involves a planned adult play date for a day. Yes, you heard it. A planned adult play date for a day. I know the title sounds interesting, but it actually involves adults helping adults in need. Don't get any other ideas. But with that said, that's all, good people. So thank you for listening. God bless. Have a good evening. And always remember, a plan that succeeds is a plan that fulfills one's needs. So thank you and good night.